Good evening. This is Phil Dixon with another edition of This Day in Black Baseball History, coming to you live today. Yeah, I do a lot of these live broadcasts. Actually, I'm getting to be pretty comfortable with it, and so hopefully you're enjoying it, and I hope that you have listened to more than one of the broadcasts because I try to bring new and refreshing information daily. So there's a lot of people out there, they proclaim to be some great storytellers from talking about the Negro baseball leagues. Man, I hear all of that, but I tell you what, you will get more stories here than you'll get any other place because I have 42 years of interviews that I've just stacked up. And then whenever I talk about something, I'm able to actually I want to say, I'm able to I'm trying to find the word, but yeah, I'm able to actually go much deeper on what I'm talking about than the average person. And this is not something that you read out of a book that I wrote or I read out of a book someone else wrote. And if I do get it from someone's book, I'm going to try to let you know where that source is because you might want to look it up for yourself, right? So I know there's a lot of people out there who talk about the Negro baseball leagues and they don't do primary source research. They go out and read the books and then don't give credit to the people who dug to find that information. So, with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and start, and we're going to do something different today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a trivia question, and I will give you the answer at the end of the broadcast. All right. So we're going to keep the broadcast to about 20 minutes, maybe a little shorter than that. We'll just see. But we don't want to go much over that because people are busy and maybe you have to come back later on to get the answer. That's okay as well. So if you like what I'm doing here, guys, I always encourage you to subscribe and keep coming back. Keep coming back. Enjoy this information because I'm laying it out here like never before. All right. I know this is a Saturday, got lots of playoff games going on. So I tell you what, let's go to work and let's see what we can do. So, all right. So here's the trivia question that I'm going to give in today's edition. Of course, today's edition is the January 16, 2026 edition. So here's the trivia question. Name two professional Negro League players who had sons that were members and actually participated with the Tuskegee Airmen during World War II. All right, we've got a few people joining here. Let me know where you're joining from. That's always fun for me. Okay, so that was the trivia question. Two professional Negro League players who had sons that were members of the Tuskegee Airmen. And feel free to drop your, you know, your what you think is your answer along the way. And of course, I'm going to give you who these people were at the end of my broadcast. All right, so let's go to some historic things that happened on this date, January 16th, and this is 1926. Russell Taylor, manager of the Savannah, Georgia Giants, will begin baseball season with a new team. He announced this in the newspaper, a new team of stars from the South, and he announced that on this date. And he further stated, now that the ban on colored independence teams playing league teams has been lifted, Mr. Taylor is hoping to get games with clubs in the Eastern Circuit. And yeah, he operated the Savannah Giants. And going back as far as 1905, they would bring a team up from Savannah, Georgia, and they were playing teams like the Philadelphia Giants in 1905. So this is a long-held tradition, and they operated once they came up out of Philadelphia. So that is Russell Taylor. And these are names, once again, that maybe you've never heard of. But maybe you've never heard of anything about the Savannah Giants. But yeah, they were definitely out there. So they're planning on, now that this ban has lifted, and did you know that there was a ban against teams, African-American teams, playing against league teams? Yeah, it was lifted at the beginning of 1926. So now African American team could play other African American teams outside the league, and that's in the Eastern Color League circuit. Okay, and somebody said, "What are we talking about here?" Well, first of all, we had the trivia question, and so the trivia question is: name two professional Negro League players who had sons that were members of the Tuskegee Airmen in World War II. And you're listening to Phil Dixon, and this is This Day in black baseball history. So I'm giving you historic facts related to the Negro Leagues that have come down through the ages. All right. So let's go to January 16th, 1926. We're going to stay in the same year. And let's see. In an interview with the Pittsburgh Courier, Rube Foster spoke honest and frankly about baseball. And Foster said, I consider Bill Monroe to be the greatest ball player who ever lived and one that would have been a star in any league. And he said, if you don't believe me, you can ask John McGraw. And you know, John McGraw, if you're a baseball fan, he was the manager of the New York Giants at that time. Even he knew about Bill Monroe. I wrote about Bill Monroe in my book on the Philadelphia Giants in 1905, and I'm doing a revision of that book right now, and I'm really going deeply to talk about Bill Monroe. I think he was simply outstanding. Bill Monroe was kind of like the Deion Sanders of his era, and he was colorful, talkative, and he could play. And when I grew up, you know, I always heard Pie Traynor was this great third baseman. Believe me, he couldn't carry Bill Monroe's glove. That's how good a guy and a player Bill Monroe was, and he was well loved. And not only did Rube Foster say that, I've got quotes from Saul White saying the same thing about Bill Monroe. Have you ever heard of Bill Monroe? You need to study this guy. And here's the thing: I'm going to put up a real determined effort to get him on the Hall of Fame ballot the next time that we roll around. So I don't know what it's going to take. Maybe no one's listening to me. Maybe people don't even believe me. But maybe if you can believe Rube Foster, and he said, hey, ask John McGraw. So there were lots of people who could testify to the greatness of Bill Monroe out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He's buried there, died, I think, 1914. Contracted tuberculosis, passed away. So, all right. So, if you're joining, let me know where you're joining from. And then nobody's letting me know where they're joining from. We got a lot of people that are bouncing in and out. So, yeah, we're talking baseball. So, that was an interview that came from a January 16, 1926 edition of the Pittsburgh Courier. And Rube Foster, and also speaking about Charles Kid Carter. I don't know if you ever heard of Kid Carter. Kid Carter in 1906, he beat the Philadelphia Athletics, a contingent of the Philadelphia Athletics. He held them without a hit until the ninth inning, and then I think Eddie Plank and Chief Bender, who was also in the lineup, got hit. So he held them to a two-hitter. And this were members of the Philadelphia Athletics. That game took place in Atlantic City. And so anyway, when Rube Foster was speaking about Kid Carter, he said, and what a sweet pitcher he was, Kid Carter. And boy, he is an unsung legend, Kid Carter. I'm going to do more work on him, and hopefully somebody's out there who are listening will take on some of these projects. We need to identify these people, and just so happens that Kid Carter is one of the players that when you look on his record, you can't find out where he was, where he died. And so we want to change that. Charles Kid Carter. All right. So let's go to another. How about this? January 16th, 1927, Southpaw Willie Foster tossed an 8-hitter and struck out 11 men in defeating Joe Peroni's Major League All-Stars. That was over at Los Angeles White Sox Park. He shut them out 4-0. How about that? Now, the losing pitcher was a guy by the name of Lou Koupal, Koupal, who spent parts of 5 seasons with Pittsburgh, with Brooklyn, with Philadelphia, all in the National League. And then, of course, his last year was in 1937 with the St. Louis Browns in the American League. Yeah, and that particular game when you had Willie Foster pitching, and of course, you know, Willie Foster is a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York, right along with his brother, Andrew Root Foster, who I just mentioned. But at bat, another Hall of Famer, Willie Wells, went 2 for 3 with a double to help him out. And then, of course, Crush Holloway, who was playing in the regular season for the Baltimore Black Sox, fantastic hitter. His real name is Crush, believe it or not. And he went 2 for 4 as a hitter. So those are just some things that happened on January the 16th. And okay, So we're going to go back to that trivia question that I had. Now, the trivia question was name two professional Negro League players who had sons that were members of the Tuskegee Airmen during World War II. All right. So the first one is a guy by the name of Arthur Chick Pullum of the old Kansas City Monarchs, and this is like 1908 right in there, and the Kansas City Jenkins team. And those were independent African American teams who were not in a league because there was no league at that time, but they are professional baseball players. Arthur Pullum later on went to the post office, worked there for many years, and retired from the post office in Kansas City. But his son, Richard Pullum, and how you spell his name is Pullam. Richard was a captain, and he flew many missions during World War II. And I had the pleasure of interviewing him, and that was a great interview. So, yeah, so that's the first one. Okay, now here's the second person who had a father who played baseball in the Negro Leagues, and he was a decorated Tuskegee Airman, and that would be the father was Larry Brown of the Memphis Red Sox, the great catcher, an outstanding catcher. Now, hey, this guy Larry Brown should be at minimum, and it should happen real soon, be in the Tennessee Baseball Sports Hall of Fame or Tennessee State Sports Hall of Fame, whichever one we can get him in. He needs to be there, and he's not there. And believe me, that's an oversight of major proportions. But his son, Larry Brown Jr., was also highly decorated, and he was a member of the Tuskegee Airmen and flew many flights as well. So those are two men. I don't know if you knew that, but okay, how about this? There could be more, and I will tell you this. And this happens to be someone that I know, Eddie Dwight, who played for the Kansas City Monarchs. Also played for the Indianapolis ABCs. And during the 1920s, 1930s, his son, Eddie Dwight Jr., was the first African American put into the NASA space program. And I don't know if you remember just a couple of years ago that they had the oldest person to ever go into outer space, and that was Eddie Dwight Jr., and that was his son. Yeah, so there's some connections to black baseball and aviation. How about that? I bet you didn't know that. We have all kind of war heroes, of course, but this is information that you need to know because information makes you powerful. Information is power. And in this climate where people are trying to discuss fewer and fewer of the achievements made by African American people in the United States of America, I think that it's important that I continue to talk about these legendary people and their families and their great achievement and their accolades that they made in contributing to our great nation. How about that? So anyway, that does it for me today. Hopefully you enjoyed that trivia question. I don't do that often, but hopefully you enjoyed that. And so I'll be back with the next time with the January 17th edition of This Day in African American Baseball History. And don't forget, this weekend is the Martin Luther King weekend, and so I'm going to go to activities, and most people look at it as a day off, a holiday off. No, it's a day on because without people like Martin Luther King, who actually gave their lives for me to have a better life, it wouldn't be possible. So I want to salute all those people. And this weekend, and of course Monday is the holiday, it gives me an opportunity to salute someone who did something for me, who didn't even know me, but he sacrificed. And here I am today doing wonderful things. So that is all that I have, guys. So have a wonderful weekend with Martin Luther King celebrations. And thank you for joining and listening to my broadcast today. And I will be back again with another edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. So I look forward to meeting you again. If you like this kind of content, guys, by all means, continue to subscribe. We're building a legacy here, a network of people who are going to be important as we move forward in telling this story about the Negro Leagues. And if you're listening and you haven't subscribed, shame on you. All right. I know there's always people like that. They'll read your books and they'll pull statements out of your books and then won't even give you a reference in their book. But this is not uncommon. And but guys, you don't have to do it that way. I think you should always recognize those people who do the work or who came before you, and that is the reason why I talk about so many of these Negro League stars. Thank you, and I'll see you again real soon with another edition of This Day in Black Baseball History.